Luna here, and we're going to find out, can you beat Oblivion while leveling as a bad class? If you haven't watched the Oblivion while leveling normally run, I recommend you watch the opening section about character creation and leveling if you aren't familiar with how those work in Oblivion, because we aren't going to cover those in depth here. That run went well, but it may have been because we picked the Sorcerer class. How will a class that doesn't have magic and heavy armor fare? Let's find out. First, the rules. We must pick a bad premade class. We must level up as soon as we reasonably can. We must reach level 20 before entering Paradise. We must use our major skills in combat, but non-combat minor skills are allowed. No glitches, exploits, cheats, or gameplay mods. Official DLC is allowed. We're allowed to use armor, athletics, acrobatics, mercantile, security, and speechcraft, regardless of whether they're major or minor skills, because they're non-combat and they were allowed in the leveling normally run, so banning them would make this an unfair comparison. But all other skills are banned if they aren't major skills. Under that rule, a bad class is one with few combat skills, especially if they don't have heavy armor or block to raise endurance for health. The less magic a class has, the worse it generally is, particularly if they don't have restoration or alchemy for healing. Having ranged and melee is helpful, so a bad class won't have both. Hand-to-hand is the worst because we can't enchant our fists, but no pre-made class has only hand-to-hand, thank goodness. Personality is, of course, useless. By this logic, a bad class favors personality but not endurance, and has no endurance-raising skills. They have little magic and limited martial skills. Before we look at the two finalists, here are two dishonorable mentions, and what is, in my opinion, the worst custom class under these rules. Monk. Has sneak, hand-to-hand, marksman, and alteration. No other magic or alchemy, no armor, and no endurance-raising skills. Archer. Has a variety of weapon skills and sneak, but only light armor and no magic, alchemy, or endurance-raising skills. They're both built to be glass cannons in a game where enemies get tanky. They also have no in-combat healing except pre-made potions. Other classes that lack healing have more endurance-raising skills and often more armor, and the other squishy classes have restoration, alchemy, or both, so they can heal more effectively. Finally, meet Perrin, a likable blacksmith that can throw a decent punch, but really isn't your first choice to be a world-saving hero. He favors luck and personality and only has non-combat skills and hand-to-hand. If this video gets enough likes, let's say 500, then I'll do another run with these rules where we play as Perrin. For now, we're sticking with a pre-made class, and I think Agent and Thief are the worst for this run, so let's talk about them. Agents specialize in stealth and favor personality and agility, so we're off to a great start. They have marksman, illusion, and sneak, so they might pull off the ever OP stealth archer build, but they have no healing skills, no other damaging skills, and no defensive skills. So we'd have a bow and no armor or shield because they have security, acrobatics, mercantile, and speechcraft instead. Thieves also specialize in stealth and favor speed and agility, so they're slightly better than agents on that front. Both classes can only increase speed, agility, and personality by raising major skills, which are the same except Thief swaps illusion for light armor. Do we want to have invisibility, paralysis, and frenzy, or do we want literally any defense? My initial reaction was that illusion would be better, but we have limited magicka and it may not help during the battle for Bruma or the fight with Mankar. Mankar has spell reflection, so using paralysis could backfire horribly, and frenzy in the battle for Bruma would also frenzy our allies, so in those battles having some defense might be more valuable than having illusion spells, but I could be wrong. I flipped a coin and we got Thief, so no magic for us. We had to do the tutorial again because neither of my sewer exit saves worked for this run. One had increased heavy armor, restoration, and destruction, which aren't allowed, and the other hadn't picked up any items. I'll still show you guys our character at the sewer exit because it's easier to record the character creation menus when I can pull them all up in one spot, but here's how the tutorial fights went. It takes 3 arrows to take out a rat. It goes down to 2 arrows per rat after a couple of marksman skill increases. Fear me. Also, Boris got our class right for once. If I literally limit us to a class's major skills, he can figure it out. The characters with the highest agility and endurance are a male Wood Elf, a female Khajiit, a male Nord, or a Red Guard. Wood Elves' abilities suck, and Nords favor melee. Red Guards have Adrenaline Rush, which fortifies their agility, endurance, speed, and strength by 50 points, and their health by 25 points for 1 minute once per day, allowing them to absorb and deal more damage or bravely run away. Khajiit have Night Eye, and the Eye of Fear can make an enemy up to level 25 flee for 30 seconds once per day. We're going with the Lord Birth sign for the Blood of the North Lesser power, which heals us 6 points per second for 15 seconds, 90 points total, at the cost of a 25% fire weakness. Blood of the North raises no skill, so it's valid for this run. It can be used multiple times per day at the cost of 50 magicka. As a Khajiit, we'd have 80 magicka and 30 willpower, so we couldn't cast it often. But you know what else we'd have? 40 endurance. We'll need whatever healing we can get. Red Guards have 50 endurance, but they're even less magically inclined with 50 magicka, so they'd barely be able to cast Blood of the North at all without magicka fortification. So our choices are a Khajiit that can heal more often and see in the dark, or a Red Guard with slightly more health and a more useful power. We're going with Khajiit because when else are they even going to be in the running? With that settled, here's our character. We're allowed to increase athletics and armor, but we won't grind them, meaning no training or repairing equipment we don't intend to use. Our other minor skills cannot increase by any means. Blade and hand-to-hand are higher because of the skill bonus from being a Khajiit, but they are at their minimum levels and will stay there. For once, we head to Joffrey right away and drop off the Amulet of Kings. We can get some leather armor, a steel bow, and 30 steel arrows by asking him for assistance. We join the Fighters Guild so we can access their guild halls, and tour Cyrodiil raiding the Fighters Guild and smiths, looking for bows, arrows, armor, repair hammers, and potions. We walk away with 191 iron arrows, 67 steel arrows, 1 silver arrow, a steel bow, a nearly full set of leather armor, assorted potions, 45 repair hammers, 58 lockpicks, and over 1,000 gold. The dwarven bow at the Archer's Paradox in Breville got me excited until I saw it was a replica, and this ceremonial glass armor in the Breville Fighters Guild was even worse. They even put it in a very hard-locked display case. Why? Mercantile and Speechcraft are major skills, so we hit level 2 while trading. We got light armor and marksman skill increases during the tutorial, so we get 3 agility, 2 speed, and 1 endurance. We're allowed to increase our endurance, but endurance governs block, heavy armor, and armorer. We can't increase block or heavy armor, and armorer will only sporadically increase when we repair our gear. At best, we might get 2 or maybe 3 endurance in a single level, but even 1 endurance helps us more than 1 strength, intelligence, willpower, luck, or any amount of personality would. Are there any quests with useful rewards for this run? The Mage's Staff would be useful because staves allow us to cast spells without raising skills, but it feels wrong to me that staves don't raise skills, so I'd rather not use them. There are no rewards from the Fighters Guild quests we need. We only joined them to borrow from their guild halls. Joining the Thieves Guild would be fitting, but they don't have anything good. Unlike Skyrim's Thieves Guild, they don't have special armor, and the only unique items associated with their quests are the boots of Spring-Heeled Jack and the Cowl of Nocturnal. Their later quests are also extremely buggy. If we look at the Spring-Heeled Jack quest wrong, it'll permanently break the quest line. The Dark Brotherhood would be appropriate too, but their armor can't compete with what we'll have access to in a few levels. The Scales of Pitiless Justice would give us a little extra carry weight, 4 extra magicka, and 2 extra agility. That's nice, but we'd also get infamy from doing Dark Brotherhood quests that might prevent us from using chapels and way shrines. If we lose access to those, we'll have a harder time curing diseases and restoring attributes. I don't want to deal with that again. There are side quests that have interesting rewards, but first we'll need a better weapon. There are so few unique bows that we can talk about all of them and why most of them suck. The Bow of Infliction is an ebony bow that's stuck with an enchantment that damages agility and drains marksman skill. Yay. Shadow Hunt from the Dark Brotherhood quest line has the damage of a silver bow. The turn undead and weakness to poison effects don't work because they have no duration. The magicka and health damage effects do work, but we'd need the level 20 version of the bow to get a decent number of uses between recharges. We'll be up the creek without a paddle if we don't have better damage by then. The Frostworm bow's damage is between Elven and Glass, but it has a 15-point frost damage enchantment with a measly 21 uses. At level 9, we could get a Sigil Stone with the same enchantment that'd have 80 uses. The Bow of Infernal Frost, sold by Mirage Dar, is an iron bow, and its enchantment gets an astounding 7 uses. Ruin's Edge from the Shivering Isles questline has the damage of a dwarven bow and inflicts a random effect. There's a 10% chance of paralysis, a 60% chance of frenzy, silence, or fear, and a 30% chance of a burden effect that is useless. There's one good bow, though. Hatred's Soul. Each time we enter most non-quest Oblivion gates, we're put in one of 7 Oblivion worlds, and Hatred's Soul spawns in Oblivion World 2. At levels 1 to 4, its damage is between Elven and Glass, which is amazing at those levels. 5 fire damage and a 10-second 5-point speed drain isn't great, but it has 120 uses. Sadly, Hatred's Soul is worse at higher levels. The highest tier has the best damage of any bow, but its enchantment is wildly inefficient from level 8 onward, with higher tiers having 47, 36, 24, and 15 uses respectively. The highest tier consumes 315 energy per shot. That's more than 1 lesser soul per shot, and about 5 shots per grand soul. The Black Star might be able to feed this thing, but the Black Star is only in Skyrim, so that's not an option. The drain speed effect is useful for an archer, but does it need to last longer than 10 seconds? Not if we keep shooting, but Bethesda disagreed and made it last 45 seconds, which blows out the energy cost. We have another option at higher levels, but our first priority is getting a low-level Hatred's Soul so we have something decent until then. To get access to Oblivion World 2, we need to complete the Find the Air quest. We're level 2, so the Oblivion Gate at Kvatch has stunted scamps and a few Dremora churls. We get some sneak attacks, but we struggle to stay undetected outside the towers. Inside the towers, it's easier to hide, which is good because in tight quarters we need the extra damage to take enemies down before they get in melee range. We have a close call at the top of the tower when a Dremora summons a fully grown scamp. We could take 2, maybe 3 hits from that thing. We couldn't get a shot on the summoner, so we ran for the Sigil Stone and played tag with the scamp until we warped out. But if we had run into that thing in one of the hallways, it might not have ended so well. We get Martin to Cloud Ruler Temple and level up. We get 3 agility and speed and 1 endurance. Repairing our equipment takes us from skill level 5 to 10. That means we'll get 3 endurance during our next level up, and I'll bet that's the most endurance we'll get in a single level during the whole run, because skills increase much faster at low skill levels. Now that Martin is in Cloud Ruler Temple, random Oblivion gates will open. We find one in the mountains not far from Bruma, and after we clear out the scamps, we save and enter the gate. We don't get Oblivion World 2, so we reload and re-enter the gate until we get the world with towers named after natural disasters. I admit, from here I was lost. The wiki doesn't say where Hatred's Soul is, it just says it's here somewhere. I combed the area for almost 2 hours before I gave in and looked at this map that shows all the doors. There's a fallen tower near the Oblivion gate, and behind it there's a fallen gate partially submerged in lava. We have to jump across a lava channel, cross the broken gate, and go to the northern tip of this landmass. If we aren't careful, we'll fall into lava, but we can drop onto this spot with a door that doesn't show up on the local map. That's what threw me. I was using the local map to check for doors, so I thought we'd cleared this area. From there, we head through the tunnels into the fallen tower. There are 2 tanky Dremora. I wish they had damage to match their health, because if they did, this would be a really tough fight, but the wiffleback combat is a constant complaint from me in Bethesda's games. They took the last of our iron arrows to take down. We entered the Oblivion gate with over 100 arrows. That's how long we were turning stunted scamps into pincushions looking for this place. We take the 2 keys of hatred from the Dremora and head up the tower. At the top, we find containers with Hatred's Heart, which we can't use, but we can take to sell, and Hatred's Soul, plus some arrows that have a soul trap enchantment. We need to get past the gatekeeper, and enlisting Jayrid makes a lot of sense. He'll give us special arrows, and all we have to do is pick a lock for him. With those arrows and Hatred's Soul, we take out the gatekeeper before Jayrid has a chance to attack. We needed access to the Shivering Isles to get amber armor and bows. The Diadem of Euphoria would also be useful at early levels. Getting the diadem normally requires us to either replace Théodon or fight him while cleansing the pools of madness at the end of the main Shivering Isles questline. However, pickpocketing the diadem is possible while Théodon is sleeping. On the way to New Sheoth, we poke our heads into every root dungeon we find to gather amber and level up to level 5 for 3 agility and speed and 2 endurance. Once we're in New Sheoth, we enter the Mania wing of the palace. Unlike the House of Dementia, which is inaccessible even as the Mad God unless we replace Syl, the House of Mania is mostly open to the public. Only Théodon's private quarters are off limits. We avoid the 2 Golden Saints patrolling the area until we reach Théodon. It took a couple of tries, which was still pretty lucky because pickpocketing in Oblivion is punishing without high sneak skill, but we get the diadem in its tier 2 form. We don't even have to sneak out as long as we leave fast. The diadem has decent armor for this level, and it fortifies our magicka by 15 points and gives us a little bit of magic resistance. We'll get better, but for now it's pretty good. There are a few quests back in Cyrodiil we can do that'll make the dungeon delving for amber easier. First, we buy some glow dust from the main ingredient to offer to Azura. Right now, we can only cast Soul Trap with the enchanted arrows we found with Hatred's Soul, and I don't want to go through those Dremora every time we need more. There are bows of souls that we can find in the Shivering Isles as random loot, and since we have to go through dungeons looking for amber anyway, I'm hoping we'll find one. If we do, then Azura's Star will be a useful, reusable soul gem, and if we don't, then we'll do the unthinkable and give it to Martin for the ritual. Taking out the vampires in close quarters is tricky. Reflex took over while fighting one of the orc vampires and we blocked. I forgot we could block with a bow. I'm used to bows either having no defensive options or the bow bash from Skyrim. Is blocking with our bow against the rules? The argument could be made that it's using part of the bow's moveset and should be allowed, but sadly, blocking with the bow raises the block skill, which is explicitly against the rules. This means that most pre-made classes that can use the bow can't use this part of its moveset, including the archer. In fact, the only pre-made class that would be allowed to block with the bow under these rules is the acrobat. Odd though that is, we stuck to the rules and took an axe to the face, forcing us to load a save from before we illegally blocked and clear out the cave all over again. Next, we took cheap wine from the Choral Fighters Guild and visited the Shrine of Namira. I soon realized we wouldn't be able to complete her quest the intended way, because the Namira Shroud that we're supposed to use on the Priests of Arche grants alteration experience. The wiki came to our rescue by pointing out that Namira's quest doesn't require the Forgotten to take out the priest. It requires that we don't take out the priests. There are undead, in our case 2 zombies, in the back of the ruins that can take them out. We try to lead them to the priests, but the Forgotten attack them, so we have to lead the priests to the zombies instead. We can attack the sanctimonious fools as long as we don't deal the finishing blow, so we carefully turn them into pincushions and lead the lot of them to the zombies. The priests attacked us the whole time, but Blood of the North was enough to keep us up, and keeping the priests' attention kept them from stun-locking the zombies. Namira must have decided that was good enough, because she gave us her ring as if we had completed the quest the intended way. It reflects 12% of melee damage we take, and gives us a 10% chance of reflecting spells back at the caster. Light armor increases pushed us to level 6, granting us 3 agility and 2 speed and endurance. We head to Shadenhall and enter the Lathandis house uninvited. Find out there's been a mysterious disappearance from a locked room, and touch a weird painting that sucks us into a painted world. That last part sounds oddly familiar. The painter had a scuffle with a thief who took the brush he needs to leave this place. The thief painted trolls to serve as guardians, but got sent to meet his ancestors by his own creations. Seriously, why did he choose trolls? What did he think was going to happen? We need to get past the trolls and retrieve the brush of true paint, so Rythe can get us out of here. Most of the painted trolls can be avoided by climbing up the rocks behind us instead of following the path, so we only fight 2 of them to get to the thief. We grab the brush of true paint and climb back down the rocks to Rythe, who paints us a portal back to Cyrodiil. Once we're out of the painting, he gives us the Apron of Adroitness. At this level, it's roughly equivalent to a leather cuirass, and fortifies our agility and intelligence by 6 points. We could have gotten a better apron by completing a brush with death at a higher level, but it doesn't improve much. Each tier gets a bit more armor and an additional point of agility and intelligence, maxing out at 12.5 armor and 10 intelligence and agility at level 25. By then, we'll have a perfect amber cuirass and our agility will probably be maxed out. Our damage doesn't increase at agility values past 100, so other enchantments will be more valuable. We need more fame to start the next quest. Helping Savli and Mattias clear out Kvatch will give us a point of fame. I also anticipate the battle for Bruma being a problem, and the Kvatch guards will be a slightly more effective ally than the Bruma militia. We mostly fight flame astronauts and scamps that stay at a distance and shoot firebolts until they run out of magicka, letting us take them down before they run in for melee combat. Their firebolts are weak, so our weakness to fire from the Lord Birth sign doesn't matter much yet. The guards last longer than usual, despite dodging our attempts to heal them with the greater power we got from the Ritual Doomstone, but by the time the first room of the castle is clear, they're gone. We ascend to level 7 as we're lulled to sleep by the crackling of our burning bed, gaining 4 speed and 2 agility and endurance. I'm sure a lot of you wanted to watch me cry as we battled a Daedroth in this tiny room with a bow, but the Daedroth doesn't appear until level 10. At level 7, we fight a scamp. Going from a scamp to a Daedroth in 3 levels isn't a massive leap in difficulty, Bethesda. Not at all. We still need more fame and gold, so we join the arena. I thought we'd struggle against the stronger melee opponents in group fights, but 63 speed allows us to mostly outpace the other combatants while shooting. A few of the opponents can take out half our health if they stagger us, which is still happening from time to time even at 76 agility, but Blood of the North saves our rear. We even fight the Grey Prince normally this time. His quest doesn't give us any rewards we care about. In fact, he increases skills we can't raise. I think it's considered a magical fortification, so it doesn't contribute to attribute increases, but I wasn't certain, so I didn't risk it. If he could catch us, he would be a formidable opponent, but we're able to lead him around the arena in relative safety as we turn him into a pincushion. We leveled up twice for 3 agility, 2 speed, and 1 endurance for level 8, and 2 agility, 3 speed, and 1 endurance for level 9. We need to get to level 10 before we handle some of the next quests, so we head back to the Shivering Isles and search for Amber while we level grind. Once we're level 10, which I forgot to record, we head to Bruma and wait until a messenger from the Countess approaches us.
Countess Carvane would prefer if you speak to her in person. My lady
A particular relic has eluded me for many years. Possessing this piece of Akaviri antiquity would make my collection complete. I'm of course referring to the draconian Madstone. Through my sources, I've learned that the last reported location of the Madstone was the ruins at Pale Pass. I've come into the possession of a diary, written by an Akaviri messenger. I suspect that the text within can lead you to the ruins.
I'm not going to read the diary translation she gave us in full, but it sounds to me like the devs plan to put werewolves in Pale Pass because the diary goes out of its way to emphasize wolf attacks and says one of them clawed the scout's gut. But there are no werewolves in Oblivion, so we're stuck fighting ogres instead. Finding the Serpent's Trail that leads to Pale Pass is simple. We already found Dragonclaw Rock when we were searching for Oblivion gates, and it isn't far from that. Once we're through Serpent's Trail, we find ourselves in a remote pass full of ogres. They're too slow to keep up with us as long as we have room to back up and shoot. They do take a ton of arrows to put down, though. We find a barrel partially encased in ice that has a key. There are 3 more chests that have to be opened in sequence. One near the ruined tower next to the fort, one past the 2 statues along the sides of the path, in the direction a fallen column near them is pointing, and the last chest is near the entrance to the pass up along the rock wall. It contains the Circlet of Omnipotence, a ring that fortifies agility, endurance, speed, strength, and willpower by 3 points. The ruined fort is full of undead Akaviri. They can't do much damage, but they take forever to take down. We're low on arrows, so after every fight we have to scour the area, picking up arrows that bounced off the skeletons. I'm glad we have Night Eye. Trying to find these with only a torch would have been awful. We find the ghost of their commander and hand him the stone tablet we found in the Serpent's Trail, which puts the undead in the fort to rest and opens a small chamber that holds the draconian Madstone. We take it to the Countess of Bruma and she gives us the Ring of Viper Eye as a reward. At this level, it fortifies agility by 7 points and increases our magic resistance by 9%. It's more useful than the Ring of Namira for now because we don't get hit often and our agility hasn't hit 100, so the Ring of Viper Eye increases our damage. Once we get enough agility, we'll switch back to the Ring of Namira. We ascend to level 11 for 3 agility and 2 speed and endurance. We have 40 fame, so we can access several Doomstone powers. We go on a run through the wilderness near Skingrad and Kvatch and find the Aetherius, Joan, Jode, and Scythian Doomstones. These once per day powers have a lot of effects, so I'm only going to mention the ones useful to this run. Gates of Aetherius fortifies our magicka by 50 points and increases our magic resistance by 20% for 2 minutes. Jode's Blood fortifies our health by 40 points for 2 minutes. Joan's Shadow fortifies our sneak, acrobatics, and athletics by 30 points and grants us invisibility for up to 2 minutes. Scythian Web is the least useful. It fortifies our marksman and mercantile for 2 minutes. If that gave us the Journeyman Mercantile perk, it would be very useful, but skill fortification doesn't grant us most skill perks. Fortifying a skill past 100 doesn't provide any benefit except for acrobatics and athletics, so the marksman buff will eventually be useless to us as well. We head to Meridia's shrine with bone meal as an offering.
By the detritus of the profane I am brought forth, and by your offering you have made the profane your interest mortal. Hidden behind a door, deep in howling cave, are necromancers. They rob graves for the materials to raise their undead armies. Find these necromancers, destroy them and their abominations. Do this, and earn the gratitude of Meridia.
The necromancers are way tougher than I anticipated. They won't follow us, so we have to fight them and their undead minions in a cramped tunnel. If the necromancers stayed back, it would have been difficult to get past their minions to get to them, but 2 of them have melee weapons, so they push past their minions. They can heal, and the amount of damage we're taking is very concerning, so we retreat through the door to heal and break out all our Doomstone powers for magic resistance, magicka, health, and damage. Once we get the permanent undead and the 2 melee necromancers out of the way, taking out the remaining necromancers is easy, but it highlights how weak we are if we have to take hits. Next, we head out to Peryite's Shrine. You'd think Spellbreaker would be useless since we can't raise block or heavy armor, but you'd be wrong thanks to how Oblivion handles shields. After we burn through about 200 arrows reclaiming the souls of Peryite's followers, we head to Zedfin to test it out against some Grummites. If we equip a shield while unarmed or with a two-handed weapon like a bow, the shield won't appear, our armor won't increase, and we won't be able to use the shield to block, but enchantments on the shield will be applied to us. Our block skill won't go up as long as we don't block. The question is whether our heavy armor skill will go up. Let's go get punched by Grummites. We get hit a few times and check our skills, and heavy armor hasn't risen. That means we can use Spellbreaker's enchantment without breaking any rules. We're running out of quests that would be useful at this level, which means we're back to level grinding aimlessly. I'm sure it surprises nobody that this is my least favorite part of these runs. I am literally writing this part of the script while we stand in a cave getting gnawed on by rats. Normally I use goblins or grummites for this because they hit faster, but they're hitting too hard, so we had to find rats. I think that says a lot about how much of a glass cannon we are. It isn't like our armor skill is low either. Before grinding, it was in the mid-60s, and we're grinding until we master it. The 50% armor bonus at 100 skill will help, but I don't think it's going to entirely fix things. Once we max out light armor, we head to a corner of the Skingrad Mages Guild Hall and sneak into a corner to grind sneak skill, meaning I jammed the left analog stick into the forward position and continued writing the script. Before we started grinding, we trained to 45 Mercantile with Seed Neas, Quarrel's general trader, and agreed to find her missing daughter, Dharma, so Seed Neas will train the last 5 points in Mercantile we need for free. Dharma was on her way to a village called Hackdirt. Yes, Hackdirt, because that sounds like a lovely place to live, with her horse Blossom. We head to Hackdirt and find Blossom behind the general store, but there's no sign of Dharma. There's a few ways to progress the quest, and we go for the direct one. We shoot the general store owner and go into the basement, which connects to tunnels full of shirtless cultists that are very eager to toss us into a cage with Dharma. We flee back into the village and lead the cultists in circles while we turn them into pincushions, then head back down into the tunnels for Dharma. We open the cage and lead Dharma to Blossom, and fast travel to Wayne Priory. We didn't go directly to Quarrel because attacking the store owner got us a 120 gold bounty. Taking out the cultists and rescuing Dharma was a-okay, but it didn't excuse attacking the store owner, who was also a cultist, who no one saw us attack and was certainly in no condition to report us because the game hadn't told us she was a cultist yet. I hate the bounty system. We had to drop the diadem of euphoria we got from Thadon before we turned ourselves into the guard and paid our fine, because otherwise they would have taken it from us, because they somehow know and care that we stole it on another plane of Oblivion, but only if we get arrested. We can wear it openly, even in the Shivering Isles, and no one bats an eye, but if we get arrested in Cyrodiil, we'll lose it. Why, Bethesda? Why? We retrieved the diadem after paying our fine for attacking a cultist in the middle of nowhere. Once we're level 20, we'll be able to buy some powerful magic rings from Errol's Mysteries in New Sheoth. And once we're level 23, we'll finally be able to get our amber gear. We'll need sigil stones to enchant it, but we're going to get them at level 23 with our new gear because our current gear is woefully outclassed. That's one of the downsides of grinding instead of playing normally. You level quickly without finding the better gear the game expects you to have. After sneaking into a corner while hopping for about an hour, we finally get to level 23 from sneak and acrobatics skill increases. If anyone is worried that we aren't getting enough combat skills, we've mastered light armor and have 81 marksmen. Better stealth and extra jump height were the only semi-useful things I could think to grind. Our other options were security, speechcraft, and mercantile. Our agility was maxed a few levels ago, and we maxed speed at level 22. Our endurance doesn't look bad at 75, 81 with our current fortifications, but health gain on level up is not retroactive, so having bad to middling endurance for most of our levels has permanently reduced our health. We have 283 health, which isn't terrible, but we've had characters with about 400 health by this level before. We increased our intelligence and willpower a bit, so we'll be able to cast Blood of the North a little more often, but 90 healing isn't the instant win it once was either. Once we're level 23, we get our armor and new bows. We'll enchant one of the bows and leave the other unenchanted so we can repair it if we need to. Now we need sigil stones, and we may as well start with Captain Bird's Gate that we have to close anyway. First, we need to find the culty books, so it's time for the meeting in the sewers. We get a sneak attack on Cameron's son while he chastises us for not sitting down, and we get a knockdown thanks to the expert marksman perk, so we take him out before he can do anything. We're above level 20, so we get a mundane ring from him that grants us 35% spell reflection and 50% magic resistance. We clean up the lackeys and Boris manages to survive the fight. He hasn't managed to survive the battle for Bruma yet, but hey, it's progress. While searching their hideout, we find an amulet of axes in a random crate. No, not the very hard locked chests, a random crate. We don't care about the blunt skill fortification, but the 33% damage reflection is very nice. Of course we find most of the enchanted jewelry we need after we grind Mercantile. Why would it go any other way? We find the glowing map near the Imperial Palace and head to the Mythic Dawn Shrine. We don't bother talking to the doormen and open with a sneak attack instead. The cultists can't do much to stop us. Our armor cuts physical damage roughly in half, and we have over 50% magic resistance, so even fire doesn't do much to us anymore. We deal with the spies in Bruma, and apparently we're going to get a visit from LeChance because we dared to sneak attack the spy next to the Standing Stone after the Blades told us the spies had been spotted near the Standing Stones.
I give up.
Next, we have to give Martin a Daedric artifact, and since we haven't found a soul-trapping bow, we give him Azura's Star. Yes, I found out afterwards I'd overlooked a sigil stone with the soul trap effect that would have let us make a soul trapping bow, and yes, that hurt. However, we also would have had to carry around 3 bows to make use of it, one to soul trap, one with the absorb health enchantment, and an unenchanted one just in case the others broke. Even if we used a lighter bow for the soul trapping enchantment, that still would have been over 50 weight taken up by bows. We have low strength because we have had no incentive to increase it. Even though using a bow designed for combat takes a lot of strength in real life, it doesn't help us here. That means we have low carry weight. Even though our armor is weightless when worn thanks to the Expert Light Armor perk, we have very little encumbrance left once we pick up a bow, potions, repair hammers, and enough arrows to last through even one Oblivion Gate. We help Captain Bird deal with the Oblivion Gate outside of Bruma, which takes ages because the enemies are so tanky. Mostly Daedroths, Spider Daedra, and high-level Dremora that summon clan fears. The guards with Bird don't even make it inside the gate, which is a new record of sorts. Bird suffers a lot of head trauma, but he stays out of the lava and he's a good distraction. We save Scum the Sigil Stone until we get one that gives our Cuirass a 20% shield enchantment, giving us 20 more armor that won't degrade even if the Cuirass is damaged. This starts the Allies for Bruma quest that we normally don't bother with, but we need 5 more Sigil Stones to enchant the rest of our armor and one of the bows, so we may as well get most of the Allies. We get the aid of every city except Shadenhall because I don't ever want to try to escort that Count's idiot son out of Oblivion again. Our Cuirass, Greaves, and Helm have 20% shield enchantments, meaning we have a minimum of 60 armor and hit the 85 armor cap unless our armor is severely damaged. Our gauntlets give us an extra 50 magicka, which allows us to keep Blood of the North up almost constantly if we wish, and our boots give us an extra 125 carry weight. The boots nearly double our carry weight, allowing us to carry both perfect amber bows and a lot of arrows while still having some room for loot. We need to bring back loot to pay for repairs and recharges, so looting isn't just about appeasing my mind goblins, I promise. The enchanted bow has a 25 absorb health enchantment, which is mostly for extra damage, but it can also be nice for some extra healing if Blood of the North isn't cutting it. We bought Rosethorn Hall while we were in Skingrad so we could access the Rosethorn cache. After grinding acrobatics enough to jump up and grab this note on the upper floor, we find an hourglass hidden above some garlic in the basement that contains some gems in the Ring of Grey. If we could have gotten it earlier, it would have been useful. It fortifies sneak, marksman, and acrobatics by 5 points, and grants 50-foot life detection. At this point, we have better options, but I grabbed this in case we find a use for it. We could go get the Escutcheon of Coral or the Morag Tong armor, but I don't think we'll need them. If we hit a snag, we'll circle back to that or buy enchanted jewelry from Errol. The acrobatics grind also got us to level 30. We only got a little more endurance and some intelligence and willpower. We're getting like +1s on everything at this point. We get Tiber Septim's armor from Sancrator and the Great Welkin Stone from Miskarkand. The only issue was that Amber doesn't bypass weapon resistances, so only our enchanted bow could hit the raids. As you can see, or more accurately, as you can't see, we're wearing the Khajiit ring. It gives us 35% chameleon, and combined with our 100 sneak skill and the dark environment, it allows us to enter stealth archer mode. The enemies can't find us, allowing us to get multiple sneak attacks and take them down before they figure out where we are, all without magic or custom chameleon items. This was Meridia's artifact, because apparently I forgot to write that down. Let me just double check that. Yeah, I definitely forgot to write it down. Oopsies. Even if they manage to find us, they can't do much damage thanks to our armor. Turns out you don't need great health as long as you know what armor and enchantments are, 10-year-old me. Without the armor, we're squishy, but thanks to the shield enchantments, we have 60 armor even if our armor is completely broken. Our main issue now is ammo. The enemies have a ton of health and take a ton of arrows to put down. The battle for Bruma doesn't go quite so smoothly. We can't be too aggressive because if we accidentally remove an ally from the census, we'll be arrested even though we're in the middle of a battle. And our only way of healing Martin is the once per day ranged power we got from the ritual Boomstone. Do you have any idea how hard it is to hit Martin with a ranged healing spell in this cluster? Even if we manage to heal him, he has either spell reflection or spell absorption or both that can negate our healing spell. Martin is sent to meet his ancestors earlier than intended on the first attempt, but he managed to stay with us during the second attempt, and once we were in the Great Gate, we didn't have to worry about it. Getting through the Great Gate wasn't an issue with our speed, acrobatics, and resistances. We were even able to take the lava shortcut because we could jump over most of the lava. Once we were in the tower, we could outrun the enemies. For anyone curious, a few more guards than usual survived, but Joffrey and Boris still bought the farm. It's time to enter the portal to Paradise. We're level 30, so we're well past the minimum level in the rules. We go into stealth archer mode for the trip through Paradise, only stopping to fight the Remora with the bands of the Chosen that we need to enter the caverns. Once we're outside Mankar Cameron's throne room, we take out his son and daughter. We take a second mundane ring off his son, but we're not allowed to wear 2 mundane rings at the same time. I had no idea there were enchanted items we weren't allowed to wear duplicates of. I guess Bethesda didn't want to make it that easy to get total immunity to magic. Not that that'll help if the player is a Breton, but we're a Khajiit, so we're stuck with only 50% magic resistance. The Camerons will revive, but it takes them a few seconds, so hopefully we can take Mankar off the census before they join the fray. We shoot Mankar from across the room and he's knocked down. We almost manage to take him out before he can get to his feet, but he just barely manages to get up and heal himself as his children run into the room. The battle gets chaotic and we switch to our enchanted bow so we can do enough damage to Mankar before he runs away to heal again. Getting Martin to the Temple of the One is usually a simple matter. If we run to the temple, Martin follows us instead of fighting and focuses on healing himself, making him easier to protect. However, if you leave the palace before the Dremora inside are taken out, Martin will keel over off-screen right as the game helpfully autosaves over the only autosave slot. This soft locks the autosave, forcing us to load the last manual save. In our case, the save from right before we entered Paradise. I have to listen to Mankar's idiocy again. He doesn't even match the Daedric princes to the right realms of Oblivion. I dearly hope Bethesda intended for him to be an idiot, because otherwise they don't know their own lore. I'm not going to make you guys sit through it again. We make it through Paradise, save, and this time we take out the Dremora in the palace before we leave. From there we head to the Temple District and Martin follows us to the Temple of the One with no issues, winning the run. The Thief class was more viable than I thought it would be, but it required more planning than Sorcerer did. We had to get good armor and enchant it to survive, while the Sorcerer could get by without that thanks to their better health and heavy armor skill. Blood of the North was also pretty critical, especially early on, whereas Sorcerers had a billion other ways to heal themselves. Stealth Archer mode may have been able to carry us without worrying about survivability, but it would have been risky without using custom chameleon gear from things like Sigil Stones for 100% chameleon, which I won't do because that's an instant win button for every class. I still think the Perrin run will be difficult because we won't have any ranged attacks, weapon enchantments, or armor, but the defensive enchantments might prop us up more than I thought they would prior to completing this run. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing and leaving a like. It really helps the channel and it encourages me to make more of these runs. If you have any challenge run ideas for Oblivion or any other game, let me know down in the comments. I can always use more ideas. See you guys next time.